Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts.
Archlector George.
And Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
As you know, we're covering The Blade itself, the first book in the original trilogy. We'll be covering Next, Better Than Death, and Sore Thumb on this episode. So, let's get started. Well, I think first we should inform the listeners that right now Harrison's having internet connectivity issues, so he's doing this on his phone. But we will do our best. We'll do our best to make this sound as purdy as possible.
Sorry, guys. You know how this not Midwest. I don't know where Oklahoma is, right? It's not in the South. It's not in the Midwest. It's somewhere in the middle of America. It's not the best internet. So
You're a southerner. You're a southerner. You're a southerner.
Yeah, it's easy for you to say. You fucking East Coast. You fucking Union bastard.
Yeah, I'm a Northeaster. What do you want me to do? Well, we just hope that you can please bear with us on that. And also just, again, we want to thank you all for your support. And again, just if we can remind you to follow us on all our social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and Reddit, which Reddit is we are very active on Reddit, and we're very appreciative of that, I would say. Right, guys?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, all of your questions, all of your interaction, and you guys have been very complimentary of us. And we were not expecting that. We were expecting people to turn around and be like,
"You piece of shit!
How dare you say that? How dare you say this?" No, it's just fantastic. You guys.
Hashtag not my first law. That's what we thought you were going to say.
Exactly. And we will be responding to some of your criticism later in the episode.
Oh, for sure. We will be. We will be.
Constructively, obviously,
Unless it's me.
Exactly. You keep that temper under control, Jeff.
Yes, I will. I'll try my best.
Mr. West.
Jeff the West. Ooh. All right. So our first chapter read through is we're going to be reading the chapter Next. And here we have Archlector Salt and Glocta. They're in Archlector Salt's office and they're drinking wine together, celebrating their most recent conquest, we guess we would say. And I love how one of the first things is that Glocta's like, "Hey, so I noticed you got a new secretary there. You want to explain that a little bit?" And Archlector Salt's like, "Yeah, he was snitching to the Mercers. I knew about that this entire time." And Glocta's like, Glocta's just like, "You motherfucker, what?"
And I love how you don't really know if he's making that up or not. He could just be like, "Yeah, no, I knew the whole time, definitely, yeah, 100%." And then he's just adapted and made new plans.
Right. That's not clear from the get-go,
right? Did know what it was going on.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting to see, through this conversation that they have. It's a pretty short chapter that Salt is basically, Glocta admits, like, oh, Salt kind of knew the whole time what was going on. We don't know for sure. He could have just been adapting to it. But even so, he was kind of in control to a certain degree the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Salt let Glocta walk himself where Salt wanted him to go.
Exactly, right? Yeah, he's definitely being guided here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, especially when it comes to, Salt saying that K-Line was innocent back in the first few chapters, and then we find out that he really was innocent, and Glocta had him condemned anyway, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Which, this is the thing that I want to bring up. Like, so Salt knew, about the secretary all along, and he still let Glocta focus on K-Line, but for no apparent reason.
And I do think that is what Harrison said. He's a lot more in control than what he seems.
Yeah. Well, with Salt, he likes to play the game. He doesn't want to reveal his hand. Glocta is just now catching on that Salt knew everything. So,
and I like how we come back to that game of cards analogy. It's a very good metaphor for a lot of the political things that happen in this series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also like Salt, he says that he knows and that Galacta's feelings got in the way. But we just saw in a few chapters ago, earlier on, that Salt let his own personal feelings dictate what Galactus should do. So he's like mocking him for this, but at the same time, he's the one who's like, "Yeah, that guy insulted me at the party. Fuck him."
Right.
And I like it's the whole rules for thee but not for me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, just to assert his authority.
So we find out that it was in fact the secretary that did it, and Salt is quite happy that he has a new one.
Yeah. I'm still kind of confused as to why Salt allowed Glocta to focus so much on K-Line as the initial
Isn't it?
source. Huh?
Because they incriminated themselves by finding out who they wanted to go after. They had the people murdered. And maybe he kind of, in a way, foresaw all this. Or at
Yeah.
least saw it as a possibility and then let it happen to see what would happen. Because the evidence that they have at the beginning, like they were all saying, you know, everybody's at the evasion of taxes and all that. It's only when you start to cover it up that you look guilty.
Yeah, it could be that K-Line, he wanted to use K-Line as a fall guy, which he kind of did.
Oh, I see what you mean.
And so he went ahead and let Glock to go along those lines, but he wanted to make it known that, you know, K-Line is a good man. He's a man of the union.
Right. A few trifling matters he might take a bribe, but other than that, he wouldn't betray the union. But
Yeah.
my issue is the only thing I think I guess I'm struggling is like, okay, so he's replacing K-Line. We can see here in this chapter he's replacing K-Line with Goyle, who's coming from England, but what's the gain here? Why wouldn't have Salt said, I don't
It's
think it's
much
K-Line.
easier to manipulate somebody who's in it for their own gain than somebody who's loyal.
That's a great point,
Oh,
George.
that's a great point. Okay.
And I think that's a very subtle because it's never really explicitly stated. But that is it's a very Machiavellian thing. I don't know if you guys have, or if
No,
anyone
I'm
read any
familiar. Yeah. I'm familiar with the
It's a,
Prince. Don't worry.
everybody is.
I'm familiar. I'm familiar with the Art of War knockoff. Don't worry.
And again, we see a lot of Joe's sort of psychology background poking through here, which is nice. I like it.
Right.
But what do you guys
Yeah.
think?
No, I think I've never thought of it that way, but I think you're 100% right. That it's easier for him to control Goyle. Goyle was his, as he tells Galacta, that he was his original, well, one of his Inquisitor exempts, which is what Galacta is now. And so it's easier to keep. He appreciated, even though he thought he was wrong, he appreciated that Glockter ousted K-Line because K-Line wasn't as easy to use as Goyle is, since Goyle has ties with Salt. So now that Goyle's in charge, now he has complete control over whatever Goyle does. So it's a good point, George.
Right. It is a very good point too, because earlier when Glock had told Salt, oh, everybody on the list was murdered, it leaves Superior K-Line as the possible source of information. He says you got to tread carefully because K-Line, like a person doesn't become superior just out of sheer luck. Like K-Line is well connected, has friends in high places, etc. So maybe that's what it was. Maybe Salt, in his own way, was just removing a chess piece off the board.
No, that's a good point. Maybe K-Line was more in step with Morovia.
That's a good point to point out. I like that. It's good.
But that's all he pretty much says here. He basically says Goyle's on his way, Glockta, you better watch out. And then Glockta's like, oh, and then, the Archlector basically says, well, there's these other people that just came in. Baez versus the Magi, he calls himself. He's like, this is bullshit. Came in with a Northman and some little apprentice. This is all stupid. Go ahead and Glockter, figure out what's going on. And Glockter's like, how do I do that? And he's like, you're the Inquisitor, Glockter. You figure it out.
Well, before all that though, I think we should point out that Glocta does tell Salt what Magister Kalt had said about the banks, about Valent and Balk specifically.
Oh,
Yeah, he says, well, Mentions the call mentioned something interesting before he jumped out of the window there, and then he names the bank, and then our selector he's like he takes a moment, he considers, and then he just like is out of nowhere. He says, "No, these bankers, that they're well connected. They have too many favors owed to them, and without a witness, you can't really prove anything. So just forget that. I have a more important task for you." So Glockta is kind of in his view, Glockta's like he's
He's
like,
just
okay,
the most
I'll do
useful
what you
tool.
need to ask. What was that, George?
It's a very useful tool at this point, isn't he, Glockter? Because he just gets results.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure.
And he does it
Yep.
very, very subtly, and which is something that we know from Glockter's internal monologue that Goyle can't.
Mm-hmm.
Because Goyle he says, he's a butcher, he just enjoys torturing people. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
we know that Glockter is, he's sort of averse to it. He doesn't take any pleasure in it. He just
Right.
does it because it's what needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an interesting little introspect into Glockta that he talks about, oh, I'm going to torture this guy, blah blah blah, but he actually doesn't really like doing it because Glockta does have a conscience.
Right. He doesn't like it. Like he cares about the truth. He even says it when he's comparing himself to Goyle when excuse me, Salt was like, "Oh, you're not a fan of Goyle?" And he's like, "He's a jailer. He's not an investigator. He's not interested in guilt or innocence. He doesn't care about the truth. He just tortures for the thrill of it." Which in a man, it's weird because it's like on one sense, it's like okay, Glockta just cares about the truth, but then on the other hand, when you see how Glockta, even when a prisoner, as we've seen in earlier chapters, is willing to be like, no, I'll tell you everything. He's like, nah, it's too late, son. I'm gonna cut off your fingers. It's like, all right,
In that case, that was a bit far, but
a bit far. Okay,
now
we
we
see
go on and we move over.
George is a Glockta apologist. Okay, George. Okay.
I'm not an apologist for him at all. But he's a horrible, horrible, horrible man.
Okay, okay.
But we
Okay.
love him.
We do. We do though.
Yeah, honestly, without Pacey, I would like Salt a lot less, but the fact that he's like, Glockta, you crippled, it makes it a lot more enjoyable,
Get it together, Glockta. Get it together.
You're the Inquisitor, Glockta.
Figure it out. Figure it out. So, I do have one more note about this about this chapter, or at least what was said when Salt is talking about, quote unquote Baez, and like, oh, he's very convincing. He knows things that he shouldn't know, etc., etc., and he's frustrated. He said that the High Justice seemed a little too pleased about it all, that he's plotting something. And if you remember, at the end of the last chapter with Giselle, when he looks into the room, when it's Hoff, Salt, and Morovia, they all looked grim except Morovia, and he's smiling. And I can't, like, knowing what we know, right? The three of us, knowing what we know about the trilogy, I'm like, why would Morovia be smiling? It doesn't jive with me. Like, is there any
I think
non-spoilery stuff that you guys can kind of like illuminate me with?
just taking into account what we know about the characters, I think that Morovia is sort of looking for any kind of way to get an advantage over Salt. Because we
I
know
mean,
that these two are basically the big players in the Union right now.
Mhm.
And Salt, while he's a very hardcore conservative, he wants to keep everything the way things are, and he doesn't want to lose power or share power. Whereas Morovia seems to be a lot more open-minded, and so
Mhm.
he's willing to. I'm pretty sure he's the only reason why they got in the first place.
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay.
I mean, Morovia is clearly at the disadvantage, right? Salt just took down the Mercers.
Oh.
Salt is kind of in charge for the most part in terms of like how many forces he has at his disposal. With
Mhm.
Morovia, yeah, he has the will of the people. Yeah, he has got this or that, the other thing, but he's definitely at a disadvantage.
Mhm.
Salt has just got a big win. He keeps consistently proving his authority. So I think at this point, like you said, George, he's just trying to get any advantage he can.
This is good. I like that. I didn't consider it that way, but that's good. Okay.
That's why I love Joe's writing with this stuff as well, because the political stuff is mostly unsaid.
Mhm. And you
all
would
of the
infer it
little
yourself.
political struggles and shifts in power and things like that, the
Mm-hmm.
characters don't perceive, and because the characters don't perceive it, we don't get told about it.
Mm.
It's one of the things that affects the story the most.
For sure. I didn't even think about it like that. Good job, George. I like that. I like
And
that.
that's what I mean. You can read between the lines in these books, even though, it may not be completely intentional. The way that
Right.
the characters are written, they just pour off the book, pour
Mm-hmm.
off
Yeah.
the page.
Right.
The
And
subtleties come with the characters. Yeah.
right. And it's on us, the reader, to infer the I don't want to say the intentions, the machinations behind everything. Right.
Exactly. And that's
Right.
what makes these books so intriguing.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Okay. Well,
And
thank
just
you guys.
before we move on, we want to
Mm-hmm.
go through. This is Salt also acknowledging that Valent and Bulk are
Oh yeah.
powerful. They're
Mm-hmm.
connected, and he
Mm-hmm.
does not want Glockner to look into them at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he did think about it though. He considered it, and then he was like,
It does say he
nah.
seemed to consider it.
Yeah, I guess.
So it's an interesting whether he knows or not the things.
Yeah.
I mean, he's kind of considering the consequences. Salt is all about Salt's very logical, and
Right,
so
like, he
he's
doesn't wanna push his
realizing
luck.
okay, how much wiggle room do we have?
Mhm.
Because we know that, I mean, without spoiling anything, we know later on that he is against certain forces. So
Right.
I think right here, I think he honestly, we're meant to think that Salt may be in on it, but there's a
Mm.
little bit more complexity to it. I think that he's being genuine when he says, no, we can't take them on at this point. We don't have enough favor. We just don't worry about it.
Okay. So he wants to accumulate more power, more backing before he can kind of do anything in terms of like going after Valent and Bulk.
I think so, yeah.
Makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Thank you, George and Harrison, for pointing that out, and wow, shutting me the fuck up. I appreciate that.
Well, you did
Shit,
ask.
we thought next is going to be a short tag chapter. Hell no.
Nuh-uh. All right, so like I think George, what you were saying is that it basically Salt is pissed off that Baez, this pasty bald motherfucker, came and is claiming his seat on the closed council, and he doesn't believe that he's the actual Baez because who the fuck lives for hundreds and hundreds of years, right? That doesn't just happen. So he's like, he thinks he's a spy, and he tells Glockta, it's your responsibility to disprove this motherfucker and all his claims, right?
Exactly. And because there's no reason to believe that he is real, because as far as anybody in the Union is actually concerned, Baez has not been back since whatever he
Harold,
did to deserve a statue.
right?
I mean, shit. What would you guys think? Somebody in the what do you call it? The House of Lords, right? For you,
Mhm.
George.
Right, so, no,
Yeah,
for
there is
you
an
guys,
open
right,
seat.
George Washington walks up to the White House and is like, right,
Yeah,
I'm
exactly. You'd
taking
be
back
like,
control. We got to
it's fucking
sort this
bullshit.
shit out.
Yeah.
Well,
It's easy for.
wait. A better analogy, right? Because George Washington was actually a leader, and in terms of history in the first law, Baez was always just on the side. So, who would be a historical figure that just led on the side? I would posit that Jesus Christ himself, Jesus of Nazareth.
Oh my god!
Oh,
Are you
of
saying
course.
that Baez is
Yeah.
Jesus Christ?
Exactly. That's
Well,
my
to
theory.
be fair, I mean, honestly, Jeff has a point there, though, right? Like, to American, Jesus Christ, is a fucking hero.
Right.
And Baez literally made the union with Herod the Great, and then
Okay, it's sort of like the concept of the creation myth.
Yeah.
So
Right.
every like culture has a creation myth that tries to explain why their
But-
culture in particular exists in the way that it does.
But Christianity is right.
Right. There's always a figurehead.
So when you talk about Baez being, he's even to the point where he's got the statue next to the first king of the Union.
Mhm.
This is sort of like a historical character because we've got the plays about him. We've got the plays about Juvens, his master. And we've got the mural on the wall in the mansion where he's actually depicted. So to suddenly consider that this person just appears out of nowhere and goes, "Yes, I'm here. By the way, we've got to do this and this and this and that." And he's like, "Fuck it, hell." Do you believe
Yeah.
him?
The only other thing
I
that
wouldn't
Salt,
believe him.
yeah, I wouldn't either. I mean, the only other thing that Salt mentions is how, like you guys said earlier, Goyle is going to come from England to replace Kayline, which is significant for Glockter since Glockter's worked with him before and he hates him.
Yeah, he's not a fan. Let's just say that. So that's gonna be interesting to see how this plays out later on, which is I think is gonna be cool.
Well, we know it's gonna be cool.
Oh, it's gonna be so cool.
Well,
what does Glockter
Jeff-
have up his sleeve?
Jeff, what would you rate this chapter?
To be honest with you, I would give this a 4 and a knuckle.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
I mean, go ahead. Yeah, not much. Like, what can I say about it that what we haven't already talked about? You know?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 3-3. Not that it's a bad chapter, obviously. Like we said before, none of Joe's
bad
chapters
chapters.
are bad. It's just like this is a really short chapter. Not a lot happens. The only thing that's really like, oh, okay, is that you realize that Soul is in charge. That's about it. Everything else is kind of just filler. Not that he made it to be filler, but it really is just kind of like, okay, yeah, got it. So that's, I mean, it's fine. It's an adorable chapter, but that's about it. You know, George.
I think I'm gonna have to give this one a 7.
Whoa!
Holy shit! He's the contrarian now.
I'm proud. I'll wear that proudly, right?
Okay.
I love Salt. Salt is one of my favorite characters, and it's not just because of Joe Abercrombie, not Stephen Pacey's voice for him, which is fantastic and really sells the character. I feel like I know this guy,
like in your workplace,
and no, just like in like everyday life, I see aspects of this person everywhere.
I get that.
He's
okay, I get that.
Yeah.
Very not relatable in a sense, but
it's familiar.
Yeah,
it's familiar.
Yeah,
the way
I get
it's written just really, really tickles something for me.
Tickles, I like that.
Yeah, it does. It tickles. And we like those words like squelch and stuff like
that. Wait till the Rangers get to that one. Love that. Okay.
No, it does. It's good. I love it.
No, George, I respect that. Honestly, I respect it.
That's the reason why I'm the arch lector.
Exactly. Like, who are we to disagree with you? I like my life. I don't want to. I don't want to take
totally right, 100% all the time.
Yeah. I don't want to take a vacation from my doc. Right? Listen, Arch Selected George, I'm totally like cool with who you are.
Jeff, stop talking.
And
we serve and obey.
Okay.
We serve and obey.
We serve and obey. Oh, that's great. I love that. All right. Well, then moving on, we'll do our question of the week. And this one has a bit of a caveat with it. Right, guys?
Yeah. We had a gentleman message us on Reddit when we posted that episode 6 came out.
Mm-hmm.
And he had something to say. He basically said that our consensus of Logan may have been a little narrow, that we all believed that he was kind of self-serving. And honestly, I mean, I messaged him back, but I wanted to state on here that we definitely don't think he's self-serving entirely. He's more complex than that. We were a little hesitant to get into spoilers, but we definitely wanted to clear up that we know a lot of people love Logan. We love Logan too as a character, but he's definitely not like, we don't think he's like some hero by any means. He's got his flaws. So, George?
That's exactly it. And it's a very, very well put point. This is Rum Job Steve, which is a fantastic Reddit reference if you've ever been on Reddit. But you are right in that, we don't think of this character as a hero. He is just a person. And when we do criticize and we sort of we don't talk down on him, but we really are talking about these characters as characters and not, people that we're attached to personally. If you know what I mean.
Well, I'm attached.
Would you? I mean, attached to him in a certain way.
We love Logan as a character. We definitely think that he has complexities. you're right. And as you said in your comment, he left certain people alive. He's done good in his life as a whole. He's done some good, but he's done a lot of bad as well. And of course, the more complex he is, the deeper in the story will go, or vice versa. And we'll definitely address that.
We can't talk about the things that Logan does or how he sees them yet because it's part of a bigger story.
Right.
We can't get into that right away, but we just
can
make
only
little
take
snide
one
comments.
chapter at a time.
Right, exactly. One chapter at a time.
We just don't want you to think that we basically think that Logan is some self-serving asshole. That's definitely not the case. We know that there's a lot of people who love Logan, and we do too, honestly. All of us do. We all think he's a fantastic character. He's one of Joe's best.
One of the best.
Yes.
One of the best.
We just want to make it clear that we have the view that maybe he has some serious flaws, but please keep in mind that we're pretty early on. We're gonna get really in depth with him as we go on.
Right.
And we are looking forward to that immensely.
Oh yeah.
And for all of you guys that are a bit disappointed that we're not covering spoilers, I hope we're covering enough and pointing out a few things that you get, but we really do feel like there is enough to talk about in these early chapters.
Oh, I
in terms of characterization,
And if I could just say, I will say that if anyone thinks that no one's giving Logan a fair shake, or if we're not doing enough spoilers, talking about things that can cross into spoiler territory, just lay the blame on me. I will take it. I will take it. I will take it for the good of the podcast.
Damn it, Jeff. It's not your fault.
Everything's my fault. That's what I've been told since I was a kid, and I'm used to it. So,
got a regular atlas over
all right,
here.
folks. We'll address that in time. Don't you worry about Jeffrey. We will worry about his childhood trauma in the future.
In the future,
we won't
right
treat
now,
it like
the podcast is more important.
Yeah, we won't treat it like other characters in the series where it just goes unaddressed and it becomes a huge issue later on. We will get it fixed. Don't worry about it.
Right, we will. It's not like I'm somebody that his name rhymes with Hogan. Anyway.
It's fucking stupid.
His name rhymes with Hogan. What the fuck?
Anyways, so chapter 2.
I don't understand that reference.
Wait, what was that, George? Before we go on chapter 2?
I don't understand that reference.
Hogan. Like, who rhymes with Hogan? No, Hogan, not Huygen.
Oh, okay, yeah, Logan, yeah.
Jesus Christ, George! Yeah,
I thought you were making a different reference.
No, I thought.
Shit, Jeff, you and I should probably stop drinking.
No, never. I will never stop drinking.
Oh, a drink.
A drink.
Oh, I can't wait till we get some of these later books. Anyway, so our second wait. First of all, thank you for the question or / comment of the week, which was again to who, George? Who was that user?
So we have user Rum Job Steve to thank for that of a little bit of criticism, which is great. We like criticism. We're never going to just tell you to fuck off, which I did last episode.
No. Dude, honestly, I don't even think. But here's the thing: I don't even think that was criticism. I think that was a well brought up point on his part. Honestly,
that's what we love about you guys interacting and having your own thoughts.
Right.
We love it.
Exactly.
I mean, we have two viewers. We have two types of viewers: people who have read most of the series or a lot of it, and people who have not read any of it. So we appreciate your criticism from that side.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, guys. Thank you. All right, take a drink. And now we're going to our second chapter read-through, which is Better Than Death. And here we come across Yulwei and Pharaoh. And they are still traveling through Gurkle. And from what we can grasp from the beginnings of this chapter, we can see that they're heading towards Dagoska. After we come upon Yulwei in the middle of a conversation with some kind of, I don't know, a New Jersey toll officer or something. He's like, "Hey, what you doing here?" You know what I mean? And he's like, "Yeah, we're going to Dagoska." And Pharaoh not the biggest fan of that idea at all, and would rather remain in Gurkle.
They've basically come to it like a roadblock, which I don't know how you set up a roadblock in the middle of the desert, but you got to.
Well,
do somehow.
there's roads,
Right.
right? Actually, if you think about it,
Right.
roads are going to be the best way through. It's a well-traveled space. You know where to go. You're not going to get lost in the desert, so you have to travel it. So deserts might be the best place to put a roadblock, because what are you going to do? Fucking go around and get lost and die in the desert?
Exactly. Like you have to imagine that a roadway would be how do I say it?
Vital.
Is rare the right word I'm gonna say? Like you're not gonna come across a bunch of roads, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, so you're gonna have checkpoints, roadblocks, whatever you have, and
And to be fair, we haven't really had a great description of the environment here. We know that it's a desert, but is it like a like sand dune, endless sand, or is it like rocky? Is there any vegetation or anything like that? We don't know any like that, because Joe doesn't like to be overly descriptive.
Well, as the Adeptus Historical,
because I was just gonna say a joking comment. But go ahead, Adeptus.
I mean, if we know that Kanta is the most populated country or region, continent in the circle of the world, there's a fuck ton of people. So obviously there is plenty of agrarian spaces, but more like it's probably more in valleys and such, and in between is much more arid. Here, like obviously in the far south, between the far south and the normal south, like Gurkle and stuff, there is a huge desert. Probably more like the Sahara Desert.
That's the Badlands.
It is extremely difficult. It's probably dunes upon dunes upon dunes with nothing in sight. As we get more north, there's probably more rocky outcrops with mountains and little things like that. So if I had to guess, it's more arid than it is like sandy in this area. That's complete speculation on my part.
No, well, I get that. I get that, but I would say what you just described as the far south, the dunes upon dunes, would be the Badlands, and that was the case. That's the opposite direction that Yulway and Pharaoh are going, because Pharaoh's originally gonna go to the Badlands, and Yulway's like, nah, bitch, we going this way. So, and and in a little bit later on in this chapter, we see that at some point they're not too far from a coastal town. I think you would say a coastal city, guys.
I think they're heading towards Dagoska at this point, aren't they?
Right, but they're not near there. They're not near there. That's not because how they describe the fortress isn't the same as how Dagoska is described later on.
No, but bear in mind, that is true. That is true.
It's not. But the fortress that they see is not Dagoska. It's a separate fortress.
That's what I was thinking. I just can't figure out what fortress
it's not any specific fortress. It's just a Gurkish fortress.
And you would have a lot of fortresses, near the coast, considering that, Gurkle seems to be a very, militaristic sort of society.
For sure.
It's obviously an empire, so they're subjecting a lot of people.
Okay.
Subjugating a lot of people, rather.
Okay.
So you would have to have regular military checkpoints, just the same way that the Union does in England.
Yeah.
Okay. I like. Okay. I just want to point out something real quick. When Yulway is talking to Pharaoh about where they're gonna go, they're going to Dagoska, and then from then on they're gonna cross the Circle Sea to Adua, and the Gurkle and Pharaoh. This is my note. Listen, Pharaoh is a straight up racist at this point. She's like, the fucking pinks? Are you serious?
Fucking pink.
She's a straight up racist. It's like, holy shit, Pharaoh. Oh la 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 la. And the funniest thing is, I like pinks to describe white people better than white. Like pink, you're right. Us white people, we're pinkish more than whitish. But for some reason,
Buck, we have color.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, not the good kind.
I know, but I mean, we have color to our skin. We're not white. We're more pinkish. They're right.
She is right. She is right.
It even comes up later. I mean, it's not too much of a spoiler to say, but it's Logan asked, like, how do you know that we're pink? And she's like, well, you are, aren't you? And she's like, he's like,
idiot.
Yeah, I am.
You're fucking pink, aren't you?
It's like we're in a tanning bed without the bed. So I, I understand what you mean. And funny that wait, I forgot to say something earlier. When George was like, "Oh yeah, they're in the desert or Badlands, whatever." Like George, come on, really? Let's be honest. What do you guys know about deserts in England? You guys are just
Shit,
clouds and
he's
sadness.
shooting at you, bro. He's shots fired.
I'm shooting, shoots.
Shots fired.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you were saying in the last episode, weren't you? You know, whenever you go to Mexico, in
Oh,
summer, it's like a yellow tint, isn't it? And then he said the
oh,
UK is grey, isn't it? So
oh,
there's no tint. It's just the way it looks.
oh, damn.
It is just grey all the time.
This is
So
great.
you know,
Oh, George,
this is why
George
Joe Abercrombie writes depressing, grim, dark fantasy
because
because
he's such a
from a
Brit.
great country.
He's just such a Brit. That's why. George, I thought you were gonna like talk hella shit about New Jersey or something. Come
Oh
on.
God, no! Why would I do that?
Yeah.
Oh, because we're already suffering enough as it is.
Exactly. You guys are going through some shit, and I don't want to make it worse.
Oh, you know what, George? I appreciate that. Thank you for being so thoughtful.
So Pharaoh and Yulway come up on the like you guys talked about earlier, the fortress,
Yes,
and they
yes,
see
the
a
fortress.
ton
Mhm.
of ships there stationed.
Right, Gurkha's
Yeah,
warships, right?
and it's interesting here. I have a little theory, if you guys will indulge me.
Absolutely, of
Go on.
course. That's all. That's what we're all about.
That they're basically
all
Yulway's
ears.
like, oh my god, that's a lot of warships. They must have bought that wood from the north or Styria. Which I have a theory that
Mhm.
Bethod built a whole bunch of infrastructure. He built roads and walls and different little areas and cities for his economy.
Mhm.
Very
What if
easily have been
he is the one who sold the wood. He sold a fuck ton of trees to the Gurkish. What else does the North have to offer? Yeah, sure, it's got fucking Chaga, and it's got mercenaries and everything, but what does it really have in abundance? It's got a hell of a lot of trees and a hell of a lot of water.
Mhm.
You ship those trees to Gurkel, not only does it hurt the Union, but it also allows you to build roads and infrastructure. How was Bethod able to build those things? With Gurkish money, baby.
Oh.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's a very, yeah, no, honestly, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. I like that a lot. Like, because we, at some point, like not to be too spoilery or anything, but we can tell at this point right now, Bethod is not your usual Northman.
No, he's something special.
Yeah, he's very forward thinking. In my own opinion, or I don't want to say theory or anything, but like, so he almost had to be this way for circumstances or people out of his control. That's what I'll say. But this is a very good move. Like if you're gonna try to increase revenue or expand, how do I explain this? Technological advances.
Expansions and
Yeah, exactly,
public
exactly.
works and developments. I mean, the other thing that you've got to bear in mind is that a lot of the time in these agrarian societies, early on, you have people living in self-sustaining communities where everybody just feeds enough, just grows enough to feed themselves and sell a little bit on. And you've got to move on from that to sort of like bigger scale economy,
Yeah.
where you've got a lot of people growing a lot of food, so that a lot of other people can do other things.
Right, which is where agriculture comes into play.
Yeah, I mean, we know that the Gurkish have a fuck ton of like gems and gold and stuff. They're in the south. They're where the resources are rich. If it were in modern day, which maybe it will be one day inside of the first law, there's probably a fuck ton of oil there too. So we know that. I mean, think about it. The Gurkish need ships. The Northmen can provide the lumber for that. So they fucking provide a fuck ton of lumber, build ships for them. And the Northmen get a ton of gold, or Bethod specifically. And that allows him to make infrastructure that the North would never be able to do normally.
For sure. Okay.
So, as Yulway and Farah, I think we should get back on.
Yeah.
Right. I just want to say that Yulway is worried at this point.
Exactly. But what I wanted to say was, I like how this is basically like a Jedi mind trick. So it's like they're standing right in front of them and they're talking about how she's wanted, and she's just stood there like, Are they talking
Oh
about me?
yeah. Yeah, I had that as a note too. Like that Yoi's magic is able to even alter her appearance, not just hide it.
Mhm.
Which is like a crazy sort of magic.
And the slaver mistakes her for a boy,
Mm,
or she's disguised as a boy,
hmm Right.
which is very interesting.
Right. Yeah, that's where I was going to come across is like that they come across a column of slaves, right, being marched to a destination that we later learn is Shafa, and the slaves were from Kadir, which is a different region, but obviously in the south. That was at one point or another under the rule of Gurkul. They must have rose in rebellion, and Gurkul said, "Fuck that, y'all crazy," and they
Mm.
just took, reconquered and are selling the people into slavery. And here, I feel like not I feel like it's very obvious that Pharaoh is having a traumatic response to seeing the column, to seeing the old man being whipped and the girl too.
Well, that's interesting, Joe.
And what?
I mean, she does have a response to it, but
Oh, it's,
less so about the girl being slaves or even the slavers. She just gets fucking pissed off that they were slaves at all, and she's like, "I was a slave. Fuck you." Because if you notice, she doesn't even.
yeah.
She notices the girl, yeah, but she basically says, "Fuck this guy. This guy isn't
Oh,
a slave."
right. I hope I'm sorry if I was unclear. She just had a traumatic response to seeing slaves
Oh,
in
I see what
general.
you're saying.
Yeah, like just seeing slaves in general, and then seeing I mean, there's no good word for it. The punishment, the unnecessary punishment, the over the top punishment, like being whipped.
Mm.
That's taking her back. It's I'm not a
I
psychologist.
love
It's
this.
very armchair psychological kind of thing, but she definitely has PTSD in this.
Mm.
Do
And
you know what
it's
I
really
mean?
comes across in this passage where she describes her need to kill him or just to
Oh,
absolutely go ape
oh,
shit on him.
oh yeah,
And it's
dude.
just thirsty people will drink piss, salt water, or oil. So great is their need to drink, and having that
Mm-hmm.
need to hurt somebody,
Mm-hmm.
that is definitely some very strong reaction to abuse and trauma.
Yeah.
Right. That isn't nothing.
No,
You
I
know.
mean, if I was a fucking slave and I got raped and shit, I mean, I would probably feel the same way, you know? Like, I can't blame her at
Mm-hmm.
all.
Exactly.
You're right.
And this is
There's
why
no.
I always
Mhm.
see criticism of Joe as not being able to write good female characters. And I think Pharaoh is just a fantastic, just a
Yeah,
completely, and the fact that she's a woman does not really factor into it because
She's just a person.
a human. She's a
she's just
human.
a person that has been treated
Mm-hmm.
awfully a whole
Mm-hmm.
life and has has been deprived of every other thing except her need to hurt these people.
Mm-hmm.
And I
But
just think that's such a good,
right, and if you think about
fantastic character.
absolutely, and if you think about it, like, come on, think about it. If a male character in this position had went through what Pharaoh went through, we'd all be praising Joe. Like, anyone that criticized him for not being able to write a female character would be praising him for, the in-depth introspection of someone who's went through trauma. So why would people say that he can't write female characters?
Yeah. Because it's really not about female or male, right? Joe doesn't really.
It's about something
Yeah,
deeper.
and Joe realizes that later on in his writing. Not even to spoil this, but he writes better female characters because. Not because he's. I think he realizes as a person. I mean, I don't know Joe personally, obviously. Could be completely wrong. But he realizes that he's not writing a female character, he's just writing a person.
Right. All he's doing is writing a character. The gender is not inconsequential, but
It's
he's writing a
irrelevant
character
for the
first
most
and
part.
foremost. Right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, Pharaoh is just she's about to go ballistic, and no one can blame her. And then a fucking soldier sees Pharaoh, I guess, making a move, and you're always like, "Chill the fuck out, Pharaoh." And the soldier's like, "Oh,
He's fed up.
she's interested in this 13-year-old girl. Like, what the fuck?" And then he's like, "Hey." Because he thinks Pharaoh's a boy, right? Because you always illusion magic, we can say, or whatever.
Yeah.
and
He just tries
and
to
then
sell her to him.
yeah, he's trying to sell the slave to Pharaoh on the side. And Pharaoh, like you said, George, is so close to just murdering this guy, just straight up stabbing him in the face and just. But Yowei points out something very well. It's like, do we have enough food and water to feed this column of slaves after you kill everybody? You know, like after you kill the whole world, is that all you want to do? And
Yeah, I mean, Pharaoh, you always, this is kind of the first time he goes off. He doesn't, like,
yeah, he does.
the whole time he's always been nice and shit, but this time he's like, Pharaoh, what the fuck is wrong with you? You really think I can disguise 100 people? We know his limitations now, and he's like, you really think this is gonna be worth the time? Are you fucking serious, you stupid bitch?
Jesus.
Yeah.
You're right though.
Yeah, you're a bit much there, but yeah, I get it.
Even this like optimistic Yulwei who gave water to a dying man in the desert, he still doesn't. You know, it's not practical. You've got to be realistic.
You have to be.
But
And then
I love this last passage as well, where she's like, where Yulwei turns to Pharaoh and was like, "Well, I am sorry, you know, but it's better than death."
yeah.
She says, "Well, it's the same."
Yeah. Which, I mean,
And I really like that because, you know, losing yourself and not being in control of your own life is essentially a kind of death.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I appreciate that. Like, Yulwei was. He asked her, he's like, you kill the whole world if you could. Is there anything but killing in you? And she says there used to be. It's like, she admits it. Like, can you imagine a happy pharaoh? A happy pharaoh, you know? And she says,
I want to see it.
yeah, but they whip it out of you, and there's nothing left. And then you could just see the shift in his face just from the writing on the page. And then he's just like, I'm sorry, like for you and for them. And it's just like I don't know about you, but I felt it. I was like, oh God,
Me
Lord.
too.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And I mean, I love the way that Joe approaches these sorts of topics. And you know, he really gets into the character. He doesn't sort of he doesn't proselytize in the prose or anything like that.
Right.
Oh, you know, slavery's wrong and all that. He only shows how it affects individuals.
Right, the human cost of it.
Exactly. Where it could be really easy to turn around and just do like a little soliloquy as the author to the audience and go, "Oh yeah, slavery is really bad because blah 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 blah."
Right, which is like, yeah, we know that, goofball.
Exactly, yeah. And he just shows it as it is.
Exactly. No, very good point, George. Very
good point, George.
Harrison, you want to say something?
I was just I agree completely with George that that's how it works. I mean, he said it perfectly.
There you go.
How would you guys rate this chapter?
Harrison, you want to go first?
Sure. Man, I would rate this chapter probably. Honestly, I'm gonna say a 5 out of 9 fingers. I know I did that in the last episode as well for 5 out of 5, but this is a very average chapter. I really like the development of Kanta as a whole. The soldier that comes up to him, you know, he's like, it's like, well, you got to make a living, you know, like he's not an asshole. He's just a human being. This little girl is terrible, but it's also she's a human being. Everybody feels very real here, and I appreciate that. But it's just kind of development. That's all it really is. It wasn't like that first time that we saw Pharaoh, and we got this intense like revelation about her in such a short period of time. Instead, we kind of just get some more development on the world and the way she thinks and the way Yulwei handles situations. So it's a good chapter for sure, but it's decidedly average for me.
Okay. For me personally, I think I would rate this a 6 and a knuckle. To be honest, I think I like this better than the initial introduction to Pharaoh, just because. Yeah, you know what it is. You get introduced to Pharaoh, right? When you first get introduced to her, she's this. I don't want to say cliche, but you know, she's this tough woman that takes no shit and is incredibly badass, right? And then at the very end of that chapter, there's a brief paragraph or sentence about how she's upset how like this group of soldiers can have a family life as compared to her. But it's here where we get a really in-depth look as to
Why she is that way.
why she
Right.
is that way. Thank you, George. And
Mm.
like the how do I say this? Not the loss, because loss ain't the right word. The her humanity was stolen from her, and we
The
get to see
injustice of it.
that. We get to see the repercussions of that here, and that's why I like this. Like, not, I mean, no one likes a chapter about slavery, but like this chapter for me, but this chapter was it just, I don't know, that especially the last part where she's just so struggling to kill. Like think about it. Like the previous chapter, right? She, she wanted to kill that one guy because he had a kid on the way. Ooh, but like that was it. Then think about it. He was just, all he was saying is like, I don't want to catch Pharaoh and I have a kid on the way. Whereas this chapter, a slaver, which is something, a person, a archetype, a stereotype that she's very well familiar with from her, from past dealings, is telling her, because he doesn't realize that that's Pharaoh, is saying, I'll sell this person, which is actually not a person, it's an object in his eyes, to you for whatever marks. And I'll make you a deal. I'll drive it down. Okay, you're driving me down even though you're not talking. Like for her, it's probably just triggering all these like layers of traumatic responses on very infinitesimal layers that I don't even she can't process properly. And the fact that she doesn't just stab him in the face, I think we gotta commend Pharaoh for that, and I do. And yeah, I mean, just the fact that she admits that like they just tear it out of
She
you.
admits, and it's probably for the first time because she's probably had nobody else that hasn't been through this experience with her.
Mm-hmm.
So when she finally admits this, it's sort of like the first healing moment.
Well,
when you finally admit,
that's what
that
it
you
should be.
admit
That's what it should be.
She is the first time, kind of like with the first time we saw her, right? We saw her actually confronting herself. It's kind of the first time she actually has to deal with the issue of slavery, with the trauma of that. Rather than just smother it down with violence, she actually has to confront it again. It's another aspect to her personality that she has to confront. And, we get to see how she deals with that.
Yeah, she just collapses. I know what you're talking about, right?
Exactly. And I think for that reason, I think I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 9.
Whoa!
I've been very generous this episode, but
holy shit,
this one really does deserve it.
I thought I was generous, but I'm an idiot. Go ahead, George. Tell us some more.
Just for everything that you've been saying, like this, that is so, you can read between the lines so much with what Pharaoh is mentally going through, even though she doesn't have the same kind of inner monologue that Glockta does per se.
Or Logan.
She's still, just through her body language and the way that she thinks about some things, it's just incredible. And I love Pharaoh so much.
She's great.
It is interesting, right? Because Glockta is still self-aware that he admits everything. Logan is self-aware enough that he'll admit a lot of things to himself. And Pharaoh, despite the fact that she's not even really that self-aware, especially compared to those two, you can still tell by the writing that Joe has all of the flaws that she has. And the same way that you can see Glockta's when he just admits it to himself.
Because I think there's really this thing here where Pharaoh is probably the lowest on any like relative social scale. Logan was a champion. He was like the best. The king's right hand man. Blocked as a nobleman, and he's always had. Apart from when he was imprisoned,
he's fucking good at everything
with preference. Exactly, and he's just really good at things. Pharaoh has had nothing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
A whole life, and it's just
good point.
I can't talk about it because I'll do spoilers, but
yeah, no, we'll get to it. Oh boy.
Awesome,
man. Yeah, 8 out of 9.
8 out of 9, George.
That's great.
I'm clapping. I'm clapping for that one, George.
Clap.
Thank you.
Clap. All right. Well, our next segment will be best meme of the week. George, take it away.
Okay, and we have user on Reddit, Tam L. Bohr, which I'm pretty sure is a play on Randall Thor from The Wheel of Time. Yeah, correct me if you're wrong. And
That
we'll put the link in the description. And once again, please do not look at these if you are currently reading through the books with us, because they will ruin the whole series.
yeah, they'll spoil
I mean,
it.
they're awesome, right?
Tamil-
But they're more for our
Yeah.
people who have read the series,
Mhm.
honestly.
Everybody
Right.
who's read these
Exactly.
series and knows what we're talking about when we reference some things. You look at these memes; they're really good.
Tam Bohr is a cool person too. They really supported us when we were starting the podcast.
Absolutely. I mean, you had a lot of interaction with us, and we've enjoyed it, so it's good. It's good.
There you go. All right, so there's our best meme of the week. It'll be in the show notes if you guys want to check it out. If anyone does not care about being spoiled or has already read the books, why not? So, moving on to our next and a final chapter read through, which is Sore Thumb. Does anyone want to take this?
Go ahead, Harrison.
Go ahead, Harrison.
To be honest, guys, since I'm doing this on my phone today, I am
All right, so I got this.
to get to my notes. Gotta look at that while I'm also not trying to be on speaker too much. So go ahead for it.
It's all right. All right, I got it. So, Sore Thumb, it's basically a Logan chapter. We come across Logan. He's in the balcony of the rooms for Baez, Kwai, and Logan in the tower chains. They're looking out, and he's on the balcony looking out over Adjua, and he's just still just like stupefied by the size of it. And so he decides that he wants to explore to get some knowledge of the city until they decide to leave, because apparently they are going to leave. Like Kwai says, "Oh, we don't know when we're going to leave." So, you just got to do it. You just got to figure things out. And Kwai offers to accompany him, but Baez comes out of nowhere and it just shuts him down and tells him to shut it. He's like, "You will not."
And I love it. This just continuation of Baez shitting on
Kwai. Poor Kwai.
Well, again, she says he's like, even for you, this is fucking lazy. Like, as in he's a piece of shit, like he sucks ass. We've talked about it a couple times now, Malicus, Baez is tough and blah blah blah, but Malicus is also kind of a lazy asshole, whatever.
He is.
I don't think so, because they come into a new city. They've been on a boat for however many
He could have spent this whole time on the fucking boat studying, and he fucking hasn't.
Or maybe being sick. Jesus, Harrison, be kinder, Harrison.
You sound like Baez.
Yeah, right. Yeah, something you want to tell us, Harrison?
Your title should be first to the Magi.
Baez is right. Hashtag. That's being included on the Instagram
you guys were like,
handle.
You know what, Harrison, you're right. Malicus is a little shithole. And now you guys are like, no, Malicus is great. He's all right.
I like how Harrison's calling this out, and he's honest, and he's like he's truthful about it. He's not lying.
I mean, I like Malicus, honestly, but Jesus, the guy's lazy as fuck.
He's lazy, but at the same time, we can admit that Baez is just not in a good mood, since apparently the close council doesn't necessarily believe that Baez is who he says he is. That's why Baez is like, he doesn't even like talk. He's just like, yeah, sure, he's out. He just goes back into his room to read, because I mean,
you do not want to displease the Magus.
You don't want to displease the Magus. And then right here we see that Baez is kind of like just looking over the city. He's glowering, however you say that word. And he's just like, these fucking cunts. I gave them everything. I gave them all this, and this is how they repay me. These assholes with their notions of freedom or what have you. He's like, I come back here.
I love this whole tirade that Baez goes on, and we really see more and more of how ruthless he is. I love this line that I remember when Adju was barely more than a huddle of shacks squeezed in around the house of the maker like flies around a fresh turd.
I mean, without even getting into spoilers, you can see how he sees people,
Right. Like, he's just pissed. He's just pissed.
Nothing but contempt for the Union, as far as we see.
Yeah.
Right. But here's the thing. This is how I think, again, a testament to how good Joe's writing is. If you're reading this for the first time, all you're reading is that a well-meaning sorcerer, Magus, is trying to come up and help the Union or whatever have you, and they're just refusing him. They think he's a spy, and he's pissed at that. And he's like once someone refuses you on something, even if you think you're in the right, you're gonna automatically kind of view them as less than. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, you view them as like these fucking idiots, especially for a person who's been around for a long time, who can explode a branch. Apparently, he can just take lavender. He could just take lavender and turn it into fire. It's like, what?
Oh yeah, I get that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, I get that, and I do like the picture where Logan's just like, oh, I feel the what do you say? He's like, he felt the sensation that there's a thing where, like, Logan was like, oh, I know where this is gonna lead. Like, he feels like Baez about to lose his shit.
Oh, he feels the tugging on his guts, like he does.
The tugging on his guts. I'm trying to find it. I know
Yeah.
it's here
So
somewhere.
basically, because Bias
An
fucking pissed off.
unpleasant creeping sensation.
Right.
Wait, what was that? Wait, repeat that. I'm sorry, guys.
It's Logan felt the unpleasant creeping sensation that seemed to always accompany the old wizard's displeasure.
Yeah, that's his
Okay.
willpower. It's because it's just like oozing out of him because he's just pissed off at the fact that he's not welcome.
Exactly.
And so I love how Logan's like, fuck this, man, I'm out of here.
Yeah, he's slipping out the door. He's just like, I'm just gonna tiptoe backwards.
I can imagine like Bias sitting on the balcony, just still talking as Logan like creeps out the door slowly. He's still just
but
talking.
He does say right. But he does say, be careful. This place is crazy, but the people are crazier still.
Yeah.
And so then he heads out, and then he sees, this is one of my favorite things. A couple things. I'm sorry, guys. That Logan knows when to leave, depending on his mood, at least Bias's mood. And the second thing was that, like, Logan's like, hey, so what's this that's being built? And this person's like, stands for seating. And Logan's just like, those are two different verbs. What?
Because clearly Logan does understand the language.
Right. He doesn't fully comprehend it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. It's sort of like you're making, it's two very vague words, like stands. Why is it called a stand?
It's like he's like, and he's like seating, and he's like standing and seating at the same time. What the fuck?
He's like, that doesn't make sense. There, this guy's crazy. I'm gonna get out of here.
But it's almost philosophical.
Yeah.
When he turns around, it's like, oh, how can something be standing and sitting at the same time?
And basically, he leaves Bias and goes to explore the city. And this is where he runs into the workman, and the workman's like, yeah, I'm making stands. And he's like, what? And he's like, seating. And he's like, how can it be both?
Yeah, and then he just backs away like the guy's crazy. He's like, oh, this guy's speaking. He's speaking riddles. I gotta get the fuck out of here.
And then he goes onto a walk and he sees this lavish garden, this.
Oh, wait. But I know what you're gonna say, but can we talk about right before that, though?
On.
Because he's just walking. It says broad lane, so we can assume middle way, King's Way, whatever. And then he just looks at the statue of the first of the Magi. And one of my favorite things is like, the first of the Magi had gained some weight since it was sculpted. Too much good eating at the library, maybe.
Yeah. He's like,
and then he looks at this random guy, and he just points at him. He's like, Bias. Yeah, I know him. He's a friend of mine. And the guy just...
I forget about that part every time.
Yeah. And the guy's just like, what the fuck?
I was like, fuck off, mate.
He's like, oh, God, I'm out. Bye.
And then he sees Giselle running past him.
Yes. He sees
and
Giselle.
I love this little sort of cameo. He just kind of runs through.
Yeah. He's like, he just sees him running like his regular, thing, and Logan's just like,
Where's he going
why?
in such a hurry?
Yeah, where's he going? Where the fuck? Why?
And I
This
I find that
nigga-
kind of interesting because obviously, if you live a whole life where you're constantly fighting for survival, the
Mhm.
concept of doing exercise for the sake of exercise must be a very alien kind of thing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because they're always traveling like over mountains, hills, warfare, what have you. And
Yeah,
he's
and
just like,
you gotta save your food and how much have you got to eat and all that. Whereas
right,
he's never experienced somewhere where you've got enough calories that you can afford to waste them by just
right.
running around for no reason.
I never thought of
Logan's
that,
like, this
George.
guy's.
That's a good point.
He's yeah, exactly. Logan's just like, this guy's goofy. I don't know
What
why
the
he's
hell is
doing
he doing,
that.
wasting the calories like that?
This silly
He's like the
hoe,
macros,
silly
bro. The
hoe.
macros.
The macros and the micros. You need to like get your calorie intake correct. So,
Gains.
uh, gains, and then so Logan is he keeps walking. He sees the garden, like you said, right, George?
Yeah,
Yeah, he's just honestly at this point, Logan's just confused by everything. He's confused by the buildings. He's confused by the gardens. He's like, grass is cut. What? Flowers are in a specific shape. He's confused by the men in their foppish dressings, as he says, and the women dressed up like, what did he say? He said
pale and ghostly.
pale and ghostly, in elaborate dresses. It's like he's just so confused. He's just like, what world am I on? He watches a group of soldiers running through drills, and then finally he kind of just chills out and he sits next to the house of the maker, right? And then here we get a little bit more, I think, as you said earlier, Harrison, a cameo where Artie comes by and asks to sit next to him and strikes up a brief conversation with our boy Logan.
It was pretty brief.
It was pretty brief, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, Artie comes up and she's like, "Hey, what's up?" And he's like, "Hey, what's up?"
What up?
And then they're just like,
Yeah.
and he's like, "I'm just chilling, bruh." And she's like, and she's like, no one pays attention to me. And he's like, he's like, "Oh, that's weird. You're pretty." And
Yeah.
she's like,
Yeah.
"All right, I'll see you later."
Mm.
And she just walks away. And he's like,
Yeah.
"Okay." That's the extent of the conversation, pretty much. But honestly,
Yeah,
I think we all
Mhm.
agree it's kind of hot.
what? It is. I think me and George talked about it earlier. I personally kind of ship Artie and Logan.
Yeah, it's like she wouldn't care enough so long as he gives her attention. And he's a pretty good
That's
guy if
it.
he
Oh,
can give her attention, other than the fact that
right.
whatever else happens.
You know, besides the fact that Logan's Logan, besides the fact that he is who he is, he'd be a pretty good guy. He'd be pretty
I mean,
good.
it would have been cool
That's
to
the
see.
real good ending of this series.
Yeah, that would be great. Joe, rewrite the entire thing.
I mean, we fucking love the ending, but shit, this would have been cool too.
Mm.
Well, right before, actually, I want to clarify something. So he sat down. When he sat down near the house of the maker. At least he sat down where he can like get a good look at it and see that the enormous shape is just cut out dark against the blue sky. There's no plant life or anything growing within the cracks of the bricks, the blocks. What else? Cluster. Like this is one of the few times we get a description of the house of the maker, right? Besides the fact that I fucking hand drew a goddamn logo of this fucking thing. But anyway.
It's a fucking fire one too,
Dude, it was insane. I hate myself.
Whoa,
Whoa,
whoa.
bro! Whoa.
No,
It's a good logo, man. It's a good logo.
I'm
We
sorry.
wouldn't
I
fucking
like how
use it if
George
it
jumped in.
wasn't a good logo, you fucking idiot.
I didn't mean that. I just meant how I am. I can't even explain it. Forget it. Just go continue, guys. Go ahead. What were you guys gonna say?
I think we were just going to move on.
Oh, okay. We'll move on. All right, then. No big deal.
So they have the little chat.
What was that, George? I
They have
heard
the
like.
little chat, and then she fucks off, and then we just
Mhm.
we cut to later tonight when Bogan wakes up from a restless sleep. and he needs
Mhm.
to take a piss, which is
Yes.
something that happened to everyone in the world.
Everybody.
You know what it's like to wake up in the middle of the night and you really need a piss.
Oh, for sure.
But this place has some
Mm.
strange customs. They've actually got functioning toilets,
Disgusting.
Mhm.
which are very disgusting because you just, it's just wood and stone that's just covered in shit.
Mhm.
Yeah, so Logan wakes up in
So,
the middle of the
yeah.
night, right? Like you said, and then he's like, man, I gotta take a shit. And so he goes up into the living room and he's like, man, where the fuck was that place again? Oh, yeah.
Where's the bathroom?
Yeah. And he sees a pot and he's like, fuck it. I'm just gonna go take a shit in this pot. What are they gonna do? And he takes out this pot, he puts it underneath his ass, and then.
Well, I think he's gonna piss at this point, not take a shit.
So. But before he
Harrison,
does.
you're getting a little too excited there.
Before he does, though, here's a woman's voice.
Ooh,
It calls
a
out
woman's voice.
Logan.
Oh.
Logan. And he turns to the window. He sees some kind of figure there. Perhaps a woman? It's ghostly and pale.
Right, it's a woman's voice. So
And
yeah.
he realizes that the woman's voice is his dead wife's, Sylvie.
No.
And he's like, Sylvie?
Delphi?
Is that you?
Mm-hmm.
And it says,
and he just fucking
Logan.
smacks her with
And
the
he's
pot.
like,
No, he doesn't. He doesn't do it yet. He
He's
doesn't
like,
do
wait
it
a
yet.
minute. That's not my wife. My wife's
Yeah.
dead. And he grabs the pot and gets ready to smack her. And she's like, Logan. And he sees like a white hand that's like reaching out
And
to
then
him, almost like deformed and long fingers. And then boom, bitch!
right. Boom, bitch.
Just fucking smacks her over the head.
No, but he doesn't though. All it says is that
He gets ready anyway.
before he does it, he raised the jar, but then suddenly the room was bright, and then he's like, "Oh fuck!" And then he closes his eyes and everything, and then after that, he kind of like peeks, and he's like, "What just happened?"
Yeah, the entire wall gets blown out from the balcony, blowing away this ghostly pale woman that had the voice of his wife.
Yeah, and then out of nowhere, Bias is just like, "Oh, it's gone." And then Logan's like, "What? What? She knew my name."
And he's like, Anita,
And then-
probably. He doesn't know for sure, though. He doesn't know for sure.
Yeah, and then Logan's just so confused. He's like, "An eater? A what? A who?" He's just all kinds of confused. And then the guard bursts in, and he's like, "Oh, what happened here?" And then he looks. He's like, I need to report this to anyone, anyone." And he just like leaves. and then Malachus he bangs out his bedroom, and then he's just like, "What the fuck happened?" And then Logan asks him, like, "What's an eater?" And then Malachus gets all, "Oh no, it's forbidden to eat the flesh of men." And then that's it. Oh wait, shit! I did the. Sorry, George. Go ahead. Do the last line of the chapter.
No, don't worry about
I
it.
didn't even realize I did.
You take that one. Don't worry about it.
Oh no! Oh no, George! You gotta do it just for my sake. Even if I'll edit it out.
George,
you
give
gotta
us
do
the
it
last
just for
line.
me. Go ahead. Give us the last line.
Malachus, what's it, Ether? Quiet's head snaps around to look at Logan, his face grim and pale.
A picture
of horror. Sorry, my thing came. I'll do that again.
Okay.
Malachus, what's an Ether? Quiet's head snapped around to look at Logan, his face a picture of horror. It's forbidden, he whispered, to eat the flesh of men.
Ooh! Gave me goosebumps there. That was good, George.
It is worth noting the reason why he couldn't have Bias because Bias passed out because he fucking
he
overused his art again, probably.
Right. He overextended in a way.
Which, I mean, to be fair, if it was an eater, we don't know what it is, though. If it was an eater, I would have fucking gone. I probably would have overextended my power as well to get it the fuck out of there.
Exactly. Get the fuck out of here, bro. I'm trying to sleep. Exactly. Just a few notes on this chapter before we get to the rating and everything. I just want to say, like, I don't know if it's just only on like Logan's end or not, but there probably isn't that much travel between the North and the Union, or at least Adua, because, or if like maybe the architecture of Adua is that much more advanced than the rest of the world, just because of how when Logan sees he's taking his little trip and he's looking at the buildings and stuff, he's just so bemused, he's so bewildered by the shape, the sizes, the capacity of these buildings, you know. Uh, and then the only other note that I had was shipping Logan and Artie. That was it.
I mean, the infrastructure of the Union is pretty extensive. I mean, the North, in terms of infrastructure, is pretty poor. You know, I mean, in terms of like soldiers and men and ferocity, and they have a lot of tradesmen, but in terms of infrastructure, it's not very developed at all. Up until Bethard made some new roads and made some new walls, it was pretty piss poor. So, yeah, I think that's accurate.
I think in terms of like the real world parallels, the Union is sort of like a Renaissance almost experience. If you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a much more developed societally and technologically than the North is. But that's also just because of political points. You know, the North is very much divided all the time, whereas the Union is, you know, a union.
Yeah, it's true. It's only recently.
Yeah.
And whether or not they kind of, you know, pull in different directions, like this been said earlier, they kind of all are on the same page. Whereas in the North, you can just go, oh, I don't, you know, that guy fucking, you know, he's stealing my crops, and they just go to war and they're all dead and nothing ever happens because everybody's always fighting.
Yeah. People have to work together in order for change to progress, in which something Bethard understands.
That's very true. That's very true. Well, what do you guys rate this chapter as?
Go ahead, Harrison. I'd say I give this one a. Oh, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I do like Logan's perspective on seeing Adua and seeing it on his own and you know untroubled. So I think I'd give this one a 5 out of 9.
Okay.
And I do like the setup for what's to come as well with the scene at the end.
Yeah. George? I mean, Jeff, sorry.
I would say 5 out of 9 as well. I mean, just like if the first two, like, I guess you could say, breaks in the chapter is just him either deciding to or actually exploring Adua, which is cool, you know, and then we get kind of like an idea of what Adua looks like. We get more description of the House of the Maker, that kind of stuff, but nothing really moves. And then the most exciting thing is like this unknown intruder in the rooms at the end. So a 5 out of 9 for me.
I'm gonna also go for a 3 and 3 again. I know madness for 5 out of 5. It's a decidedly
5 out of
average chapter, but it is really cool to see this other aspect of something magical. You know, Bias, it says probably an eater, but we don't know for sure. And it is really cool to see like our characters interact with each other. You know, Logan and Artie, and it's very realistic for Logan to walk around the city being kind of confused and dismayed at what's going on. Yeah. It's not an amazing chapter. If it wasn't for that last part, it'd probably be lower. But the fact that it does have this magical, like, kind of a creepy, cold feeling, it ups it for sure for me. So definitely 5 out of 9.
There you go. It's a good one. I like that.
I really think Pacey's delivery on this scene as well at the end, with the apparition or whatever it was appearing, it's very, very good, and it really sets you in that tone as well.
For sure. I like that a lot. Well then, let's move on to our next segment, which is our character spot. Do we have a character?
We do.
Oh.
It is Arch Lecter Salt.
Oh, snaps. We're going to the top of the food chain.
We're finally doing it. Yeah. Arch Lecter Salt. We might bring him up again, but he is, you know, we don't get to see much about his personal life, but we do see how much in control he is. You know, he's not we're kind of made to believe like, oh, he's just somebody who lives out for himself, which is kind of true. But he's very competent. We see in Next that he is on top of the ball. He's the one. He knew he was going on the whole time. He's the one who let information link to his secretary. It makes him much more intimidating when he's in the scenes, realizing how powerful he actually is. Whereas before we thought he was this kind of a pompous asshole. Now we realize that he is actually a big boy. You know, he's a player in the game.
Right. Oh, he big boy.
Exactly.
George, do you have anything to add to that?
I think I've said it all in this episode. Like, he's just the absolute smuggest and most self-satisfied bastard that anybody's ever met, and it just works so well.
Oh,
you know, he's laughing at his own jokes. I'm sure everybody knows somebody that laughs at their own jokes.
Yeah. What a douchebag. Yeah.
And everybody knows a guy like this. Everybody knows Archer likes salt.
Yeah, that's true.
And just for that reason, he's one of my favorite characters in this series.
Well, I support the choice for this character spot. I support it. Good job,
Thank you, Jeff. That means a lot.
Thanks, Jeff. We'll see you next time.
That's our show, everyone. We want to thank you for listening and supporting this podcast. This is a passion project for the three of us, as you all know, and your support really does mean a lot to us.
Join us next week as we cover questions and nobility.
And as always, follow us on all our social media, Circle of the World Podcast, except on Twitter, we're at COTTW Pod. And send us your submissions, your questions, and your memes wherever you can find us, and especially on Reddit, where we are Circle of the World Podcast.
And if you guys haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever else you listen to podcasts on. And please rate and review this podcast as it helps to spread our reach. Thank you all again for listening.
It is forbidden to eat the flesh of man.